Buongiorno tutti, and welcome to your second supplemental video for Italian for Travelers. In our review of Cinque Terre, we are going to go over a few of the questions and answers that we learned last week in class. And then I'm going to dive a bit deeper into piacersi, expressing what you like to do or don't like to do. And finally, I'll wrap up the video by going into the song that we learned and how you can use that best in your home study. So we started out by asking, Dov'è Cinque Terre? Dov'è Cinque Terre? Where is Cinque Terre? So remember that dove is a contraction of dove, where, and is. You can tell that it's is because it has that accent up top. Dov'è? Where is? Dov'è Cinque Terre? Well, Cinque Terre è in Liguria. It's in Liguria, the region, and it is al nord. It is up north. Dove Cinque Terre? Cinque Terre è in Liguria. È al nord. Now, after that, we reviewed how to ask what. Both che and cosa, which can be used together, mean what. Cosa also means thing. So asking what can be a little complicated in Italian, but don't actually worry about it. Using it is pretty simple. So you can say che, what? Cosa, what? Che cosa, what? All three of those are going to be pretty interchangeable for you. Later, we'll also learn that quale, which, can be used where in English we would use what. So for example, instead of asking, what is your favorite movie, they will actually ask, which is your favorite movie? Again, don't worry about that too much. Just learn to recognize che, cosa, and che cosa, all three meaning what. And we'll put that together with our question of the week, which is che cos'è? What is it or what's that? So here's how it works. You've got che, cosa, so what, and then there's e again, there's our is. But we drop the a in cosa, put an apostrophe there to indicate that it was there, just like when we do can't or won't in English. That apostrophe is like a little arrow saying, hey, there used to be an a there, so you can recognize the word. And then it contracts into che cos'è. What is it? What's that? And you'll see this quite a bit everywhere. And also, I mean, in Italian classes, che cos'è? And it's a great introduction to some vocab. We also learned a slightly different question. And the reason I'm introducing these together is not to confuse you, it's to unconfuse you, but they look a little bit similar. And that is cosa c'è? What is there? Cosa c'è? C'è Publix. Ci sono ristoranti. So when I say cosa c'è, what is there? You can say c'è Publix. There's a Publix. Ci sono ristoranti. There are restaurants. So I can say cosa c'è a Tallahassee. What is there at Tallahassee? You can say c'è Publix, c'è Wakulla Springs, ci sono ristoranti, whatever. The answer will be c'è or ci sono, and you can also just ask that as a question with a rising tone. For example, oops, c'è Publix a Tallahassee? Is there a Publix? Sì, c'è Publix. Ci sono ristoranti a Tallahassee? Sì, ci sono ristoranti. The construction is pretty simple. It's ci is there, as in there is, there are, not like over there, there. So ci, and then, hey, there's our friend again. Is, and our apostrophe. Ci plus c'è. There is. Ci plus sono, well, there's no vowels we got to deal with, so the ci just stays the same. Ci sono, there are. Now, if these breakdowns help you, awesome. If they just make you go, Mamma mia, ditch them. Just memorize it as a phrase and the understanding can come later. But All of these questions are pretty important for traveling. You need to be able to ask, c'è un treno? Is there a train? Or do you have to find another way to get around? Um, uh, c'è un bagno? Is there a bathroom? Um, but you also need to be able to ask, what's that? Cosa c'è? So, if this is a lot, just, pick one of the questions, get it memorized, get real comfortable with it, and then move on to the next one. As an example of how to use this in the context of Cinque Terre, which was our destination, I am going to give you a little more vocabulary. Cosa c'è a Cinque Terre? Ci sono strade. There are streets. And you see una strada, due strade. Ci sono piazze. Una piazza, due piazze. There are piazze, or we'd say piazzas or even plaza. We usually use the Italian piazza. Una piazza, due piazze. And remember, those are town squares or street intersections with a little square. Even small towns usually have many of these. Ci sono bar. Un bar, due bar. And remember that bar can mean like a bar, like waterworks. It also means a cafe, a place where you get coffee. That's where we get the word barista. The barista is the person, the barist, like a typist, somebody who works the bar, which is the big counter where they make the coffee or alcoholic drinks. In Italy, a lot of these places are a bar by day and a bar by night. Ci sono musei, un museo, due musei. There are museums. Ci sono alberghi, un albergo, due alberghi. So there are hotels. All right, and we ask perché alberghi, non albergi. So albergo, alberghi. So the reason we have this H in there is to maintain the sound. Go here, gi here. So we want to maintain that hard G sound, g, g, g. So we prop it up with that aka right there so that it doesn't soften in the plural as a result of that. Now, I want you to get comfortable with c'è and ci sono at your pace. And the reason I'm adding this into the mix is not to make you memorize the rules of singular and plural, although if you want to do the insanity workout, you absolutely can, but to get you used to recognizing nouns even when they are in their plural forms, so it doesn't throw you off when you're reading a sign or a brochure, or when you're hearing people talk about things or places you want to go to. All right. For now, the first step is just noticing that there's a difference and filing that away for later. But we've got singular street, plural street, singular piazza, plural piazza. You notice this a sound changes to an a sound. Strada, strade, piazza, piazze. And that is, in fact, a feminine singular, feminine plural. The good news about words like bar or computer or laptop, if it ends in a consonant, it's not going to change. So 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar. And then we have over here un museo, due musei, un albergo, due alberghi. So O becomes E. These are masculine plurals. If you've ever ordered a panini, you're actually ordering two sandwiches because the singular would be a panino. A singular strand of spaghetti, which is plural, is uno spaghetto, um, and so on and so forth. Do you need to know these? Again, no. Just start noticing that these are things that happen to nouns. If you want to go the extra mile, that's awesome. For now, mostly just notice that these patterns are there and don't let them impede your ability to recognize the vocabulary when it's doing all kinds of stuff, because Italian words like to change form a lot. So notice we have ci sono, ci sono, ci sono, ci sono, ci sono. These are all our plurals. All righty. And of course, a reminder of those sound rules. All right. After that, we Added another word in the mix, come, but that was a review from last time because you remember come, how? We had that in come ti chiami. How do you call yourself or what is your name? And then come stai? How are you? How are you? How are you doing? So here we're going to ask come as in how do you get around? You can get around in macchina by car, in barca by boat, in treno by train, or e anche, remember anche is also in aeroplano, in taxi, in gondola, in cavallo. Cavallo is horse, in cavallo, in bicicletta. So for all your modes of transportation, you go in. Um, Now, if that's confusing, it's because prepositions don't make any sense in any language. We say, I'm on the plane, but you're not literally on top of the plane, right? You have boarded the plane, you're in the plane, right? We say we go by train or by car. Like, well, why does by make any more sense than in? The more you think about it, the more you realize, wait, prepositions don't make any sense. So, in Italian, for modes of transportation, they're all in ma, but if you're on foot, it's actually a piedi. So by foot is a piedi. In piedi is standing. If you're in your feet, you're standing. But if you're in anything else, you're moving around. Um, so I introduce that kind of as a taste of a preposition that is really, really, really super regular. Prepositions are not something that you really need to focus on. But again, like those noun endings, they have a tendency to just get in your way. So if you can just say, oh, I can just set that aside, this is a good one to start recognizing those patterns with and zeroing in on what matters. All righty. So with that review, let's look at a few of those sounds we learned. The most difficult sound in Italian is ye, ye. And you hear this in tagliatelle, tagliatelle, the pasta, or pagliacci, as in, just like Pagliacci did, I try to keep my sadness hid. And that sounds a bit like the ly in million. Million comes from mille, mille, milione. So ye. If you can say million, you can say ye. And you can also fake it pretty close. As long as you're not pronouncing it glee, as long as you just ditch that g sound, you're good. Then we had she and she. You'll notice that without the S, it's chi che, right? So it's already softer than ki ke, right? We've got chi, che, and the S just softens it a little more. She, she. Not a lot of words have this combination here, but when you do see it, it's a sh sound. If an S comes up against a hard C sound, it's just you're just going to pronounce each sound. So don't overthink it. Just pronounce each sound as it comes, and you'll see that later. And then finally, nya, which is really fun to say, and we all know this from lasagna, gnocchi. In Spanish, this would be an N with a tilde. In Italian, they added G to make it that nya sound. So we have yi, she, she, and nya. And between that and your vowels and your letter C and letter G rules, you're about 95% at your Italian pronunciation. And the rest is just practice and exposure. As a pronunciation tip, it's really a lot easier, at least for me, to learn these sounds in the context of a whole word. Yi by itself is kind of tricky, but if you can say it with voglio, I want, suddenly it's a lot easier because you say vol, yo, like vol, like the little animal, and then yo, like yo, listen up, voglio, easy peasy. And then vogliamo, we want, vogliamo, tagliatelle, there's tagliatelle again. To impress your friends by not saying tagliatelle at the restaurant, you can say tagliatelle. Pagliacci. There's Pagliacci is clown. That's the name of a famous opera. And again, it's something like the double L in million. So there's gli, and if you master gli, you've mastered the Italian pronunciation. All right. Now that we've done that, let's dive into our grammar point of the lesson, cosa ti piace fare? And we're going to learn a little bit about the verb piacersi, which is to like something. If you have some Spanish, you're golden because this is just me gusta. It's going to function exactly like me gusta. If you have that, all you got to do is plug in the new Italian vocabulary and you're good to go. For the rest of us, let's take a look at how it's going to work. So, with mi piace, to express that you like to do something, you're going to say mi piace and then the infinitive of the verb. We'll see more about infinitives at on the next slide. So mi piace, whatever. I like whatever. I like to do whatever. If you want to ask someone else if they like to do something, you can ask ti piace infinitive, question mark, rising tone, mi piace, whatever, ti piace, whatever. All right. Technically speaking, what you're doing is you're saying me is not I, it's to me. Piace, remember we had piacere, pleased to meet you, pleasure. This literally means to me is pleasing, whatever. That's not as important for you to understand now, but if you want to do the insanity workout later and start talking about things you enjoy, foods, art, books, whatever, instead of just activities, it will come into play, even if it's not that complicated. Just file away in the back of your mind that you're not actually saying I like, that something else is going on. So let's look at those infinitives. As a review, an infinitive is the dictionary form of the verb. In Italian, they usually end in ere, ire, or are, and they're all one word. In English, they're broken up in to and then the base form of the verb. So we say things like to go, to be or not to be, to eat, to swim, to love, to look at. Those are all infinitives. In Italian, it's all one word, just like it is in Spanish, French, and Latin. And you can tell it's a verb because it's going to end in are, as in guardare or nuotare, or ere, leggere. We also have andare. And you see verbs that end in ire or ere. But if you see that, you know it's a verb infinitive. As a note, reflexive verbs will look like this. Laurearsi, svegliarsi, they'll have that C at the end. Uh, don't worry about that so much now. Just note that if you're looking up a word in a dictionary, you want to learn how to, you want to look up a verb and you see that, you can still use it. Just know that that means it's reflexive, which we won't get into, but just learn to recognize. A lot of the skill building that you're going to do at the beginning of the course is just recognizing things in spite of those changes, like I said before, and this is one of those. So the way you are going to say that you like to do something, again, mi piace. So for example, mi piace guardare TV. To me is pleasing watching TV, or I like to watch TV. Mi piace nuotare. I like to swim. Mi piace leggere. I like to read, whatever. And then ti piace, same thing. And make it a question, you just use a rising tone. Notice gli, so gli piace nuotare. He likes to swim. Le piace nuotare. She likes to swim. Ci piace, we like. Vi piace, y'all like. Gli piace, they like. This gli is also for plural. You don't have to learn all of these. Notice though that piace does not change except, oops, I accidentally put these three in red. Sorry, no, these should all be in green. Nothing is changing about piace here. So you've got mi, ti, gli, ci, vi, gli. For our purposes, if you don't want to do the insanity workout, just mi, ti is fine. But the piace is not going to change and the infinitive is not going to change, which is great because it means you can just look up a verb in the dictionary and not do anything to its dictionary form to be able to use this construct and talk about things you like to do. Um, to negate that, you can say non mi piace. So, mi piace leggere, non mi piace guardare TV. Right? So, that's piacersi for now. Um, if you're doing the basic, just mi piace, ti piace, pick yourself out a couple verbs, and you're good to go. If you want to do the wild woman workout, maybe you can add um, some of these, le piace, ci piace, vi piace, gli piace. You can add that. So you can say, well, she likes to watch TV, but I like to read, that kind of thing. And if you want to do the insanity workout on your bonus materials, you'll see how to use piace with things you like because it's a little bit different. Um, so that will be your kind of three-tiered system for piacersi. And of course, if you have questions, just go ahead and ask. Finally, after our review, I'm going to go into our song of the week, which is going to be an introduction to how you can get over what I call the Lucy problem. The first song I like to introduce is Quando, Quando, Quando. It's really fun. Um, and it's a really good introduction to this tool that we can use. As a review, remember that the overwhelm you feel when trying to understand Italian, especially spoken, is due to the limitations of working memory. If you think back to the I Love Lucy video, she is totally overwhelmed by the chocolate that's coming down the assembly line. And our brains do much the same thing when all this Italian speech is coming down the line and you have to either use it or lose it. So our challenge is how do we make this a process that's really smooth and not efforted? Training your working memory to process language automatically takes time and input. So what does this mean? Well, it means that you have to get yourself to a point where you are comprehending each word without having to think about it. And of course, that takes a really, really long time. And it takes what's called input. And input is just spoken or written language that you are trying to comprehend, right? What that basically means is that you just have to be Lucy for a really long time and you just have to keep dealing with that chocolate as it comes down, and pretty soon, soon you'll get more comfortable with it, but over a long period of time, you get faster and faster and faster and more automatic, and you can just take care of each little piece as it comes down. Um, what I mean by input, again, is just that spoken or written material. So the catch is that you have to be able to at least comprehend most of it in order to get fast at processing it, because otherwise it's just gibberish, right? So how do we do that? Music is a great source of input because it's catchy. And this is especially if you read and listen at the same time. Music is great. It's catchy. It repeats a lot, which is always good when we're learning. We need a lot of repetition. Um, it tends to be very sticky in the mind. Like I said, it's catchy, and that will help you actually memorize the things that are being said in the song. Now, at first, to make it comprehensible, you have to do a great deal of translation, right? We are at a point where you have to really kind of rig a song to be comprehensible, right? But imagine if you've been studying Italian for 3 months, 6 months, a year, you might know most of the vocabulary, you'll know a lot more of the grammar. You can listen to a song and get it to the point where you can understand about 90, 95% of it without too much effort. That's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be, and that's essentially the rate at which you want that assembly line coming down at you. The catch being that it takes a while to get there. So what I like to do is get those songs to that 90 to 95% just by looking up all the words, breaking them down, doing not exactly a word for word translation, but enough so that you can understand what's being said in the song. And then you can make it work for you, even at a beginner level. So let's do that for cuando, cuando, cuando. After I've broken it down, then I'll go into a better overview of how you can engage with the song once you understand most of it to get the most out of the exercise. So we did this quick and dirty in class, and I'm going to go over it here. What you can start off by before you even look at the song is just add this to your vocabulary. Okay, you've got your regular Cinque Terre vocabulary, and you're just going to add this to it just like you would any other word. Um, and for our purposes, I'm not presenting these necessarily in the order they arrive in the song. I have grouped them into categories of words that are doing the same thing. For example, here we've got all these nouns that have to do with time. Below that, we have verbs that are in the future to form. You are going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and so on. So you can even just decide, okay, I'm going to learn these words today, and then I'll learn this group tomorrow. Break it down. Go as slow as you need to. So starting off here, we have dimmi, comes from the verb dire. Note that that's an infinitive. It means to say or to tell. Literally, dimmi, tell me. And you've heard me say this because that's how I respond to questions. You say, oh, I have a question, dimmi, tell me. Um, Next we have l'anno, l'anno, the year. Give it a little extra N. When it's two N's, you want to hold that sound just a little bit. L'anno instead of l'anno, l'anno. Subtle, but it's there. Il giorno, the day, and we have that in buongiorno, right? L'ora, l'ora, the year, or I'm sorry, the hour. Ora is hour. We also use that for time. So what time is it? What hour is it? L'ora, the hour. And then later on the song, he uses the word istante, instant, instante. So the year, the day, the hour, and then we could say l'istante, the instant, or he says ogni istante, every instant, right? So we've got time. Below that, we have some future forms. Now you can tell that this is a future because it ends in I. Verrai, you will come. Verrai. Bacerai, bacerai, you will kiss. Dirai, dirai, you will say. And notice here we've got dire, dimmi, dirai, all forms of dire. Next, we have attenderò, attenderò, I will wait. Vedrò, vedrò, I will see. And this ro ending with the accent is what tells you that it's a future form for I. I will wait. I will see. Forse, forse is maybe. Mai, mai is never. D'improvviso, d'improvviso, suddenly, like improvisationally, suddenly, d'improvviso. And then we have sorridente, sorridente, smiling. Ridere is to laugh, sorridere is to smile, and sorridente is smiling. All right? When you learn this vocabulary, do you need to know, oh, that's a future, blah, 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 blah. Again, file it away for things that will come up later, and you'll go, oh, I remember that now. And for now, get the gist. Next, we have fino a and accanto a. So fino a, like finally, fino a, up until. Fino a, whatever, until whenever. Accanto a, next to, like an accent. And this was also in the bonus vocabulary for this week because it's used for directions. Oh, the library is accanto a Publix, right? Then finally we have lasceremo. Lasceremo. We leave or we will leave. This is a we form verb. All right. Again, do you need to know every little detail of any of these to make it work? No. Learn them in groups or just get the gist to the point where you can understand basically what's being said, the main message um, for each phrase. So once you've done that and you familiarize yourself, not necessarily, you don't necessarily understand it completely, but again, you familiarize yourself with the broad strokes, not every single word, not every little point of grammar, but you can understand what he's singing about, then you're ready to begin. So how do we use music? Well, the easiest way is to read and listen at the same time. So when you do this, you're reading the lyrics and listening at the same time. You're getting that input in a way that's a lot easier to handle than just the Lucy method. It's a bit more structured. Um, you are reinforcing your listening skills and reading skills. Each one supports the other. This will help you with your pronunciation. It will help you with your spelling because you're seeing that connection in real time. And it just overall is a really, really great structured way to start comprehending Italian. And it's that comprehension that is going to boost your overall proficiency. Getting a lot of comprehension time is going to be what lets you speak, what lets you write, what lets you have ease in the language, right? So this is just a really great way to do that. And when I say read and listen, I mean only read in Italian. So you've done all your prep work. You've done the translation, you've learned the vocabulary, you've got it to the point where you can read and listen along. After that, just ditch that translation, ditch that English that you've looked at. Now, if you're lost, what you can do is just go back and say, okay, I need to go back and hit that vocabulary again. What you're aiming for is to be able to listen to the song and follow along with the written lyrics and be able to understand, like I said, 90–95%. You can tell the story of the song. And you want to do this a lot. Read and listen to it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until you absolutely can't stand it anymore, and probably long after anybody you live with has been driven mad. So just get tons of time. You might want to do this as much as, say, 15–20 minutes at a stretch. So what I would advise is, excuse me, once you are at this point, listen and read the song 3 times in a row. And then that can be like your song workout for the day. Another thing you can do, and if you've been reading and listening sufficiently, you'll start to do this without even trying, is memorize the song. You know, learn the song, learn every word, learn to sing it in your car. And again, even if you don't understand all the grammar, which you won't, you are getting those structures internalized. And what happens is you learn this song, and then in 6 months, you start learning the future tense of verbs and go, oh, attenderò, I get it. And you have something that you already know, something meaningful that's already in your brain to attach these new abstract rules to and make it meaningful. So memorizing songs is a superb way to jumpstart that. And you can be memorizing songs for months while you're learning vocabulary, learning grammar, and um, you can get to the point where in about 3 months, 6 months, a year, all of a sudden, all of that material that you've memorized um, suddenly sends your Italian to the next level. So if you like, memorizing and singing a song is great. And then finally, if you really, really want to, especially train your ear and train spelling, try doing what's called a close test or a close exercise. And this just means without looking at the text, you listen to something and try to write down what you hear. Um, excuse me. What I like to do with my undergrad students is I will give them a worksheet where the main words are blank and they listen to something and they have to fill in those nouns and those verbs, right? But the rest is there. Um, Another activity, another exercise is you listen to maybe the first two lines of a song, you pause it, without looking at the text, you try to write that down, or just write down key words, remember nouns and verbs. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. Excuse me. But these are the three different ways you can start to use music to really send your Italian to the next level. And it's easy and it's fun. It just takes time more than it takes effort. I mean, there's effort there, but it'll take a long time before you're really fluent in Italian. But this is a really wonderful foundation to get there. And these activities also line up very nicely with the basic workout. Read and listen 3 times. Memorize it. Might be your wild woman. And for the insanity workout, try a clothes test. Try uh, writing it down as you listen to it. Pause, write down what you see or what you hear, and then check yourself till you can get it. So with all that in mind, I'll be sending you the link to the song that has the lyrics, along with instructions on how you can find other songs that have the Italian text with them to do this if you have an interest in any other kind of music. But that is what I've got for you for this week. Try all this out, get your feet wet. Remember, you don't have to be perfect, and I will see you next week.